Hey Global Village, what's up? Okay, today I want to go through the international rules of war, and then we can talk about how that relates to what the Israelis are doing in Palestine. So let's just take a quick read here.
The rules of war are universal. The Geneva Conventions, the foundation of humanitarian law, have been ratified by all 196 states. Very few international treaties have this level of support. Everyone fighting a conflict needs to respect humanitarian law, both governmental forces and non-state armed groups. While all these laws apply to international conflicts, only some apply to armed domestic conflicts. Humanitarian law doesn't regulate whether a state may use force. The rules of war: 1. Protect people who aren't fighting, such as civilians, medical personnel, and aid workers. 2. Protect people who can't fight anymore, like an injured soldier or a detained person. 3. Ban targeting civilians. Doing so is a war crime. 4. Recognize that civilians have the right to be protected from the dangers of war and receive the help they need. Parties to a conflict must do everything they can to avoid harming civilians and their houses, or destroying their means of survival. This includes water sources, crops, and livestock. 5. Protect sick and wounded people. They have the right to be cared for, regardless of the side they're on. 6. Protect medical workers, medical vehicles, and hospitals dedicated to humanitarian work. They can't be attacked. 7. Ban torture and degrading treatment of detained people. 8. Protect detained people. They have the right to receive food and water and be allowed to communicate with their loved ones. 9. Limit the weapons and tactics that can be used in war to avoid unnecessary suffering. 10. Ban rape and other forms of sexual violence as a tactic in armed conflicts.
Okay, so it is my very strong contention that Israel can more than reasonably be accused of breaking every single one of these rules. I mean, I at this stage I don't really think it's up for reasonable debate that they haven't broken pretty much all of these rules. And I just want to reiterate here that these rules of war are some of the strongest international laws that humanity has ever created. They're not up for negotiation. In terms of there being any international rules, there are few that have been more strongly and uniformly agreed upon than these ones. So we need to understand that framing when we talk about what Israel are doing here. Because the real problem is that Israel is part of what is we're the so-called civilized world. It is part of a modern Western society. In fact, it's the very exemplar of it, supposedly. And so the fact that it is this beacon of Western civility that is actually committing these atrocities in front of the whole world to see is exactly what makes this so obscene. And the way it really tears down the whole veneer of civility and civilization upon which the West has assumed the mantle of possessing. It just really demonstrates that the whole thing is a lie, and that even the strongest laws we have available to us apparently only apply to those regimes that the West generally doesn't like. Let's take a moment to consider how profoundly Russia has been sanctioned for its supposed breaking of some or few of these laws. The reaction has been massive. It's like, I don't know, it's hundreds, if not thousands of forms of sanctions have been applied against Russia. Almost instantly. As soon as they invaded Ukraine, that was in. Yet, Israel has not received a single significant sanction. Not even one. Despite the fact that the level and extent to which it's broken these rules is unprecedented. It's like we've lived thinking that gravity is a thing, and then all of a sudden people are just jumping off tall buildings and floating around in the air. All of a sudden gravity doesn't exist anymore. It's outrageous. And yet the propaganda machine in the West is such that for many people they're still sleepwalking enough that they don't understand that the rule book that we all are supposed to live by has been just ripped up into pieces and thrown in the air, and that people continue to gaslight and defend or deny what's happening in Gaza. It's completely outrageous. So let's just for a moment consider the typical argument that is given, because what's happening here is, in many cases, Israel no longer try to defend that it's not breaking these rules. It simply tries to offer an excuse for why it's breaking them, such as the starvation. Because it's very hard to deny you're starving a population when we've got the visuals that demonstrate these children and civilians are now literally on the edge of death. Ribs sticking out of their chest. Can't really deny that. So instead what they do is they just say, oh, Hamas is stealing the food. I mean, look, even if that was true, you cannot collectively deny the entire population, some 2 million people, food and water, because you think a small fraction of it is being stolen. And let's just be clear as to how big the Hamas resistance movement actually is, because it's estimated there's about 7,000 to 10,000 active soldiers and there were about 20,000 reserves. So let's be generous and say that there are currently 50,000 active soldiers, which is way more than there actually would be. Well, that breaks down to about 2.5% of the entire population. So we're trying to argue that about 2.5% of the entire population apparently are able to steal all the food and leave none for the other, just slightly under 2 million people that actually need the food. That is complete bullshit. The whole thing is just a joke. It's like Israel can just say, you can make an excuse for anything. You can just pull an excuse out of your ass for any outrageous thing that you are doing, and then, create some sort of plausible deniability. And I can't believe that some people still take this seriously. The only people that are going to take this sort of shit seriously are people that actually endorse and believe this genocide is warranted. And these people are actually the true face of evil. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on this matter. I think, unfortunately for us, things are looking very, very dark for the people of Palestine. I'm not sure that anything can save them now. Donald Trump himself has said that Israel need to finish the fight after the latest failed discussions around a ceasefire go. And on that note, I just want to make it clear that the so-called negotiations for the ceasefire were done in very bad faith on behalf of the Israeli people, of the Israeli government. And to just clarify why, it's because they said it was an unconditional requirement that Hamas completely disarm. Now, there is no other ceasefire in history, virtually, where that condition has been part of a negotiated ceasefire. You wouldn't expect Ukraine or Russia to completely disarm as a condition of a ceasefire. That's just not how it works. If you're making that a condition, it's because you don't want the ceasefire to succeed. So it's completely disingenuous. The implications of that are incredibly dire, because it means that Israel and America are committed to the complete destruction of Hamas, which in turn means the successful genocide and ethnic cleansing of Gaza. They're giving that the green flag, and that means we are likely to witness now the mass starvation of the entire population. We could be just days or weeks away from seeing thousands and thousands of people just dropping dead spontaneously, of mass graves being dug and of bodies being piled high and then burnt to try and avoid the spread of disease. These are the sort of apocalyptic scenes we are now very, very close to, and America is effectively endorsing it. Anyway, Bendy out.